that works.
Hey,
oh, there you go.
There
Now we're live.
That's
Okay.
it. That's all it took.
Running into technical difficulties. Making sure. All right, so we're gonna try it again. Take two.
Action.
Right. All right. So let's just make sure this is all good. We're both in the camera. Not getting lost here. I think so. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
That's it.
All right. So welcome to the show. All right. My name is Gus for all you crazy people out there. Let me bring this down a little bit just so it's a little bit more about. There we go. All right. And this is the Ortiz Anomaly podcast. Appreciate you guys watching. I'm here with Matt Wood, half of the owners of the franchise 30 Minute here in Claremont. Your wife is the other owner?
She is the much better looking owner.
Right. Fair enough.
The better looking half of 30 Minute Hidden Mineola. Yes,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. So the reason why I wanted to bring you here is because I had the amazing honor of helping you guys find your very first space as you built this brand new franchise to the area. Now, the franchise itself, they've been around, but they're new to this area, right? This is the first Florida location?
It's the second Florida location. Okay. We were the second one to open. We were the first one to sign an agreement in Florida, but the second one to open.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. So talk to me about like what even got you thinking, obviously, you've owned other businesses and stuff like that. And what got you, like, how did you get started in, to even consider a franchise? And then, we'll get into like why this one, but why even think about a franchise model in the first place?
It came from being 2020, being laid off. I was working for the Walt Disney Company, and when they did their mass layoffs in 2020, due to COVID, I was one of the 28,000 that got impacted from that, and looked at it as an opportunity to figure out my next challenge.
Yeah.
And just took that as, okay, what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
I knew a lot of people were just out there saying, all right, woe is me. I'm lost, I'm confused, don't know where I'm going. And I looked at it as an opportunity and said, okay. And started looking around and connected with a franchise coach, which to that point didn't even know there was such a thing. But made that connection with a great gentleman who helped guide me through the entire process, and made a lot more sense out of everything, because I'd run across different franchises before.
Yeah.
And every time I looked at them and talked to them, it was super confusing and really intimidating, because it was just, oh, here's this franchise of ABC company, and it's X amount of dollars. And I would be like, nope, can't do it. Too much money. Don't understand what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And not going to do it.
Yeah.
Working with this guy, he's like, oh yeah, no, don't worry about that. Let's figure out what you're interested in. Let's see if it makes sense for you. And then I'm going to help break everything down Barney style, so that you can you understand what you're looking at. You understand what a franchise disclosure document is, and then how the agreement works and all that stuff, so that when it comes time to look at the numbers, it's not super intimidating and you're going, oh, I understand it. And that's exactly how, when it got to that point, I was like, okay, yeah, super easy, makes sense. I get it. And it really became a playbook. And
yeah,
for me, that made it so much easier. Especially with my background being military, I was like, yeah, there's a playbook.
Yeah.
There's rules, regulations, guidelines. I can follow that.
Right.
That makes it a whole lot easier for me to go off of.
Now, because you were obviously working in what you would call a traditional job, right? Where you get paid, you go to work, you show up, you clock in, you get paid, and every week it's on repeat, right? And there's a consistency that comes with that, I think a lot of people, when building a business comes into mind, right? It's a very different animal. There's not really a clock in, right? You kind of have to there's a lot of work that's involved, and a lot of times you don't see the fruits of that work for a long time, and then you start seeing the fruits of the labor, right? And that can be very scary for people. So, what got you, like, when you were laid off from this sort of standard job situation, right, where you kind of have like a consistent salary, what made you make the decision between like finding other work versus going into business, knowing that businesses tend to, most people don't do well running a business,
Right.
So what was it in your mind that got you to be like, what, this is something I want to do or have to do, or I'm interested to know what switch turned on for you to say, I want to be an entrepreneur. Like, that's not an easy thing to just do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it totally is. And you're right. There is that safety net of saying, hey, I have a job. I have the security of going to work every day, knowing somebody's going to pay me, and I can do this, and it's a blanket. I can put that blanket on every single day and do that. And to wake up one day and say, yeah, I'm not going to take that blanket off. I'm going to throw the blanket off, throw it on the floor, and I'm going to go. I'm
just going to do it myself.
I'm going to make my own blanket now.
right.
It's, I think, well, part of it was in the back of my head, I knew I had my own security blanket from my time in the military, which helped a little bit.
Yeah.
But I also looked at it as, I saw it as a need to solve a problem. And I've kind of talked about this with my kids, and I talk about this to people that are looking to figure out what they want to do in life. We all, as we grow up and we make changes in life, everybody's always asking us, what do you want to do when you grow up? I just turned 50 last week. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But asking people, what problems do you want to solve? That changes that equation. That changes the mindset. And so when I started asking myself, what problem do I want to solve? That helped to say, okay, now I have an idea of, all right, if I have an idea of what problem I want to solve, if I can figure out how to solve that problem, now I can build a business, or I can start going into business doing that. And I mean, I spent pretty much my entire life finding ways to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So taking that step into entrepreneurship was like, okay, I'm going to be uncomfortable doing this.
Gotcha.
It's not going to be easy, but I'm okay with that. And at the time, my wife she had a job where she was bringing in some money. We talked about it and realized, okay, if I do this and we make this decision, are we going to be okay if we do that?
Right.
So it wasn't just me arbitrarily going, hey, I'm going to go do this.
No, I get it. I
go
get
for
it.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And without any support, it was, hey, are we okay if we do this?
Yeah.
And she said, yeah. If this is what you really are passionate about, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sorry to really interrupt. I mean, I think that is such a critical part of doing something like this, because it is, starting a business is considerably risky, right? Because if it fails, then you have nothing, right? Like, there's not much that you have to go with. You're kind of like, you're back to square one, essentially. And having that support system with your wife is sort of critical to making sure that can work. So that was part of my story, was very similar in that regard, because my wife was the one, because I was worried about taking the risk of going into business, though it's something that I have been wanting to do for a long time. My wife was the one who said, "Hey, you need to do this.
Mhm.
You've been talking about this forever. Like, why don't you just go do this?" And I do think that having that support system is super, super critical. It's awesome that you guys are actually working together. I don't know if I could work with my wife. We joke about that. So I'm still trying to, we're still debating, because I'm like, I really love you a lot, babe. And I don't know that, like, I'm worried that we're going to work together and then it's going to be like oil and vinegar because of the way that she works and the way that I work. And it may work fine. I don't know. So that's cool that you've been able to kind of navigate that. So, and talking about that, I kind of want to hear, like, how did that work out? Like, how did you guys kind of figure out a way to work together? Because I'm sure you see yourself during the day and then you see yourself in the evening. Like, you're always in front of each other, right? That's
Well,
in and of itself is difficult, right?
it's interesting because the way we've got it set up right now is we kind of work in shifts.
Oh, okay.
So she can be working at the gym in the mornings and I'll work in the evenings. So we do kind of have that opportunity where we're apart from each other.
Yeah.
And we do come together at home,
of course,
to do some of the business stuff at home. And on the days when we're not working, there are days where we do have time at home before one of us will have to go. And so, we do have some of that oil and vinegar. We've had those issues where it's like, hey, you didn't talk to me about this, whatever.
Which is normal dynamics.
Right,
yeah. Now, how do you guys like split the workload? Is it like you guys pretty much both do a lot of the same stuff, just at different times, and you just kind of share, or do you guys have certain roles? Or
no, we do. We have certain roles.
Okay.
She will definitely tell me if I'm stepping into one of her areas, right. I know about it. We definitely set aside, all right, this is areas that she doesn't want me stepping into. She likes to take over like the QuickBooks and stuff.
I gotcha.
Our anything to do with the reconciliation and the numbers. She's got a lot of that taken over.
Gotcha.
So I offered to help in that. She's like, no, I got this. So I'll stay out of that area.
It's all right, man.
I do a lot more of the social media stuff.
Okay.
So we play to our strong spots with all that. And so there's some spots where we cross lines, but for the most part, we do kind of play the Ghostbusters and we don't cross streams.
Sure. That's a good analogy.
Yeah. We know where we have our strong points.
That's cool.
And so we play to that.
Nice. So having owned other businesses and then now coming into this sort of franchise, like, what do you find has been sort of the biggest difference in, like, operating under sort of, hey, I'm going to kind of make my own system as best as I can versus walking into a franchise that already has sort of a model set up? Like, what has been the biggest difference in operating in both of those environments?
Pretty much what you were just talking about, like, to go from starting my own business where it was I'm making everything up as I go to I'm walking into a franchise business where there's a playbook that has, this is how you're supposed to do 90% of everything.
I gotcha.
The last 10% is, we'll kind of give you some guidelines, but you're going to figure it out as you go. That was the biggest difference.
Okay.
Walking into a franchise made it really easy to kind of get everything started and run with. They've got pretty much everything set up for you, so it makes it very easy to walk into and start going.
Yeah.
They provide a lot of the training for you, the physical training, the sales training.
Yeah.
How do you do this? And then you have the ability to reach out to other owners and say, hey, if I've never dealt with something like this. Has anybody else dealt with a situation like this?
So you get a chance to mastermind with other owners of the same franchise.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah, which is awesome because we've ask questions that we've never, situations we've never dealt with before, and gotten responses from people that have been owners for 10, 12, 18 years.
Oh, wow.
And they've been really helpful on how to deal with situations.
That's cool.
That's been great versus,
if you're on your
business
own.
where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. So I have to research and Google and try to figure it out. And I can ask other people, but
it's not quite the same.
It's not the same because they don't have the same business. So.
Right. So when you're, what I want to ask you, that the thought that came to mind for me was, I had a question lined up that you made me click onto. Now I can't think of it. I'll have to come back to it. So that's what it was. When you first started, you said you had talked to a franchise coach.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that someone that when you work with a franchise, I'm assuming you pay that person?
No, that was a great piece. It was that the guy that I worked with, he got paid. They get paid from the franchise itself. So they get paid like a finder's fee from the franchise. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So that I didn't pay them at anything.
Oh, wow. So talk about that a little bit. That's interesting. I did not realize that. I would have assumed that you just pay a monthly rate, or there's a consultation fee or something. So how does that look like? So if someone's interested, I'm interested in starting my own business, I'd like to start a franchise, I'd like to talk to a franchise coach. How does that, what does that even look like?
So it was a great experience. So he asked me questions about, what are you interested in? When you wake up in the morning, what gets you motivated to get out of bed?
Okay.
What kind of things drive you? Where do you really find your passions and strengths to be? And based on those kind of questions, he turned around and said, all right, here are 4 companies that I think might fit your interests.
Interesting.
And based on the 4 companies that he said, he gave me a home inspection company, gave me a executive leadership coaching company, a poke restaurant company, and then 30-minute hit. Mm-hmm. So put me in touch with all their business development reps. I talked to all 4 of them. The home inspection company, when I talked to them, they said, all right, we'll give you a franchise disclosure document. If you sign with us, your territory is basically going to be Claremont West and this huge geographic area. And I said, that's insane.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I was starting a business that I would actually have more time with my family,
right?
Less time.
Yeah.
I've already had less time with my family. I want more time back.
Yeah.
This would not give me that because, as you know, as a realtor, I would have to be reaching out to you to try and get you to be my reference. So that I can come out and do inspections for you. I would have to be, and then schedule these inspections, and I would never have time.
Yeah.
So if that very quickly became not a chance.
Yeah.
The executive leadership coaching one, I said, okay, that sounds interesting, but I was having a hard time coming to grips with that one, saying, okay, I could probably do this one, but I wasn't 100% on board with it because part of me felt like there was a potential conflict of interest with what I was doing at the time with my other company where I was doing HR consulting and human capital consulting. I said, I feel like I would be.
Am I cannibalizing one or something like that?
Right.
I gotcha. Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to pass on that one. The poke restaurant was a really great opportunity. I thought that would be a really cool business. The owner, super guy, really cool, out of California. He had just started basically getting into the franchising aspect of things. The drawback was it was a really high buy-in.
With restaurants, though, typically there's a lot of infrastructure that you kind of need for that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The plus side to it was there was no cooking involved. It was all cold storage aspects.
I see.
Wouldn't have to cook anything. It was all just basically cold sushi to serve up.
I gotcha.
Which would have saved some, but still a really high buy-in.
Yeah.
And I thought, but it was still the big decision between the two. And then it came down to 30-minute hit.
Now, what did you like specifically about 30-minute hit that really this is really the thing that makes me jazzed up to do this? Was there something in particular?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. One, talking with the owners, the owners, Deanna and Jackson, were phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Really from the get-go, instant trust with the two of them.
That's awesome.
And the same thing with Nick from Pokey.
Okay.
But also the fact that they're a women's only fitness studio. There wasn't anything like that, or there still isn't anything like that here in Lake County or Central Florida.
Right.
So they're catering to a specific niche.
Mm-hmm.
And I immediately saw the benefit to the clientele for that.
Okay.
You're opening up a fitness studio for women so that they actually have a safe space to come work out.
Gotcha.
I said, that's phenomenal. That's huge. That you're not.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. No, I totally get it because I know that in a lot of traditional gyms, and my wife runs into this all the time. You unfortunately you have dudes that don't know how to be appropriate and ogle and
Yep.
And as a man, sometimes it's, I get it. Sometimes as you see a really pretty lady, it's hard not to look.
Right.
And it's uncomfortable for the woman.
Yeah.
So as a man, I'm constantly having to say, okay, I need to not look that way, and
Right.
and not that I'm trying to be ogling, but I mean, that's a very normal thing for men to do, but it's uncomfortable for women, generally speaking. So
Yeah.
I totally understand this sort of the safe space for women in that regard.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other aspect to it is they can go into a gym where or they've gone into gyms where they may not know what they're doing. The equipment is intimidating. It's confusing, which guys have the same problem too.
Yeah,
if they've never been into a gym.
For sure. Absolutely.
So all those factors played into it. And I said, okay, this is a great idea.
Okay.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And so that just made it even easier for me to say, yeah, this is great. Then came the hard part of saying, oh, now I need to turn around to Kim and say, hey, so there's this really cool idea that we've got. I think this would be a great thing for us to do.
Nice.
And convince her that we should do this.
Now, what was the in your mind, what do you think was going to be the resistance component for her? You're saying you had to convince her. Was there something was it the franchise itself? Was it that particular model? Was it just getting into a business? Like, what was the thing that you thought was going to be the thing that had the most resistance from her perspective?
Oh, it was totally going to be the cost. I knew she was going to see that, and the dollar signs were going to flash right away. 100%. It was totally going to be cost right up front.
Yeah,
she was going to see that, and then she was just, she was going to look at it and be like, "We're not going to be able to do this. There's no way.
I gotcha.
We're not going to be able to. Not at all."
Okay.
And then she was. Then it was going to be the next thing was going to be a fear of failure.
Sure.
But if I could get past all those,
yeah,
we'd be all right.
So what do you think got her over the fence?
Just, I think the talking to her about, okay, this is how if we can break down the cost this way,
mm-hmm.
and showing her how the cost would break down, and showing her the way the breakdown of finances would go.
Yeah.
How when the money starts coming in, this is how it's going to look.
Mm-hmm.
And then, talking with some of the other owners during the franchise discovery process.
Gotcha.
That helped.
So she just needed time to kind of take in the
Yep.
information and make sure that it made sense.
Yep.
That was just a sticker shock is really what happened.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Mostly
Yeah.
sticker shock was the issue, and then the concern for success. What's interesting about franchises, and that I had found out is that franchise models, they have a really high success rate. They tend to be very successful often. It's like 90 something percent of franchises that get started tend to stay in, are still in business 5 years later, which is a testament to how the franchise model actually works, regardless of the franchise, which is kind of cool. That I think that's another element, because it's almost like the opposite. It's on the opposite end of traditional business,
Right. Yeah.
right? That like 80% of businesses fail or something like that. It's some 85% of businesses fail. It's some crazy number. So it's interesting that franchise model is kind of on the opposite end of that, which is kind of cool. So I can see that, okay, well, here's the model, here's how you make money, here's some success stories, right? And then you kind of get her over the fence that way.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So now getting into some of the rougher, I guess the tougher question is, as we see our economy that's actively shifting and we don't know what's going to happen. It could, kick back into high gear. It could shift down into kind of a squirrely situation. How are you guys thinking about, how are you guys thinking about like what this means to your business, and how are you guys, I guess, I want to say, I don't want to say putting up defenses, but just like, how are you guys preparing yourselves for, anything that could potentially happen in terms of like where the economy could potentially go if it happens to go negative? Obviously, we don't want that to be the case. But as a business owner, we have to think about those kinds of things. Like, what are we doing to adjust for that? Have you guys like gone through that exercise as to like what you guys are going to be doing? If the economy does happen to shift and then people don't necessarily have the same kind of like willingness to spend on something like 30-minute hit?
We haven't fully started looking into that because we've tried to maintain that positive mindset that, even through tough months, tough times, things are still going to keep going forward.
Yeah.
I think that's just because we've tried to, kind of like we were talking about before we started, is we're always looking to hunt the good stuff on things. So
Sure.
I think we look at it. We've got a solid core of members right now
Mm-hmm.
who have been with us, a lot of them since we started in May.
Yeah.
Who have really believed in us, who have supported us. And I think the more that we continue to keep going out there, we're diving more into our grassroots marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is going to continue to help us get the word out. And the more we see people coming in that are not members, that are coming in to do our free trial experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and we're asking, how have you heard about us? And they're saying, well, we saw you on, on this ad, or we did a Google search or something.
Yeah.
We were on social media and we just looked up kickboxing and you guys came up.
Oh, cool.
So we're starting to see that we're getting traction
From the marketing stuff.
Right.
Gotcha.
So I think that's where we're starting to try to put some of our eggs in that regard. So I think if we can continue to do that, that's going to help us weather any downturns in the economy.
Mm-hmm.
It could potentially be some tight months,
Mm-hmm.
but I think over the long term, we're going to carry through it.
Yeah. No, I asked because, what I find tends to happen, whenever, at least historically, what we've seen is whenever the economy weakens, right? The trick is figuring out how do you keep, people on board with you as like, hey, this is a thing I don't want to let go, right? Because when the economy weakens, people start letting go of stuff. Well, you know what? Maybe we don't get the Netflix, or maybe we don't.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We don't go out to eat or whatever the case. And oftentimes, gym membership tends to be one of those things that people let go. And it seems to me like creating a sense of or figuring out like a good retention strategy, right, around, let's say, a weak economy that would get people to say, well, I could let this go, but I really like this because of XYZ or whatever the case may be, right? Where you kind of create a familial kind of vibe. And it seems like that's the kind of place that has that potential. Yeah. So I'm just wondering if you guys had considered something like that. Because Okay.
We have. We built we built a pretty solid community through our members.
Okay.
We try to do member events.
Oh, cool.
In fact, we did one last month right before the holidays.
Yeah.
We did a cookie chili challenge. We invited members to come in on a Friday night.
Oh, cool.
Long after we'd closed, and just got them together. No workout involved.
Yeah.
They just came in, got together, kind of hung out.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we do things like that.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, like those kinds of things. And I think that it's, in my view, I think it's things like that seem like, oh, this is just a little extra something that's not really a big deal. To me, those are the things that are going to differentiate why people will stay versus, oh, you know what, I'm going to just go ahead and cancel, right? Yeah. Because it's those, like, it's a more intimate connection that you're having with your customer base, allowing you to really be connected. And you get two things out of that, right? You get the person feeling like, oh, I am a part of something bigger than me, and these people actually care about me, right? And then you get the reciprocal effect of that, which is, oh, well, if they care about me, then I should also care about them.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then, do I want to, I could let go of this membership, but you know what? This actually does good for me, and it also does good for them, and I can afford it. Maybe I just won't eat out the extra couple times, and I'll just use my money to pay for this membership. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think those kinds of things are really, really critical. So that's awesome that you guys do that.
Yeah. And we try to, one of the things that we started doing every month, we took a cue from corporate. Okay. Every month will publish on their dashboard a list of all the owners that have birthdays during the month. And we took a cue from them and said, all right, every month on our social media pages, we're going to publish a list of all the members that have a birthday every month.
Yeah, that's nice.
And so we'll do their first name and the date of their birth date.
Yeah.
And we pin that on our social media page every month so that we can recognize everybody that's got a birthday coming up that month.
Gotcha.
And a lot of other locations have started taking a cue from us and been doing that too.
That's awesome.
But we make sure to highlight that and say, hey, these are all our hitters that are coming up on birthdays this month.
Yeah.
Recognize them. Like a lot of other places, we'll do our member of the month and we'll spotlight them and make sure that they're recognized every month. So yeah, we're doing those things to really bring that membership base in. We want to make sure that they feel welcome. We really take the time to get to know them. And yeah, we're doing what we can to build that community and really make them feel like this is not just a regular gym that they come in, they check in and go work out and leave. And
yeah.
Nobody even really, hey, who are you again?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, we make it a point to really get to know who they are, how many times they've been in, what milestones they're coming up on, what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So we build those connections as they're coming in and spending 2% of their day with us.
Right. What for someone who's interested in wanting to get into a business like this, like what are the things that are, or at least were most challenging for you going into this project? And it'd be interesting to hear the things that you anticipated and the things you just didn't even think about. And it was like, oh my, I did not expect this. Like, what were some of the challenges that you kind of ran into, not knowing, you're just kind of coming in and figuring it all out, right? And obviously there's a model to follow, but there's still going to be challenges that kind of present themselves. What do you feel were the biggest challenges for you? And but for both you and for Kim?
Well, I mean, the biggest one was the one you helped us with, was finding a location.
Oh yeah, okay.
I mean, that was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it took us almost 3 years to find a place.
Right.
I mean, the market was crazy.
Yeah.
So that was one we didn't anticipate. We figured, it would be a lot easier to find a place. And
Yeah.
It just wasn't. The other side to it was, well, I mean, we knew equipment was going to be an expense. We knew technology was going to be a piece to it, but we didn't realize how technology was going to be impactful. We didn't. There were certain things that were going to come into play that we didn't expect. Like music licensing.
Talk about that.
So this was something that we had no idea about from the very beginning.
Oh yeah.
And so for any location that plays music in a public space, that music has to be licensed. It doesn't matter if you're a gym, if you're a restaurant, if you're an office space. If you're playing music in a public space, you have to be licensing that music.
Right.
And you have to pay for that.
Yeah.
And that can be expensive.
Right.
So if you and I are in a band, you could be licensed with one organization as the lead singer. And if I'm a drummer, I'm licensed with another organization. So in order for this space to play our music, they now have to pay 2 different organizations to play our band's music.
Interesting.
So we were getting hit by these licensing groups to say, hey, you need to pay us $600 a year to play music. And there's like 4 different organizations.
Oh, wow.
So we were looking at, $2,400 a year to pay.
Just to have music.
Just to play music in our space. And people were like, oh, well, why don't you just play it off, Amazon or stream it through Pandora or whatever. We're like, yeah, that's great, but we would still have to pay for the licensing rights to be able to play that. Well, then corporate signed an agreement with an organization that licenses background music, which covered all those organizations. Now that's saved us a ton of money, because instead of paying $600 a pop, it went from that to now it's like $80 a month. We said, okay, not a problem. We can still get all this great music that's curated into different mixes.
Gotcha.
And it's background music.
Right.
And now we can play it, and we don't have to worry about,
any additional licensing issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was a huge weight off our shoulders.
Yeah.
Now we're not paying tons of money every year for licensing.
Yeah. Now, is that something new that came up, or they already had that in place, or?
It was something that came out last year. Prior to that, and that was something that came into play right before we opened. And so previous to that, every other location had been paying all these different licensing fees.
I see.
Which, as soon as they signed that agreement with this other organization, everybody was like, yes, now we're saving money.
Yeah, right.
We don't have to pay $2,400 or whatever, which made a huge difference for all these other locations.
Right.
We just looked at it as like, great. Now we're signed a check and what we're paying every month.
Now, how did how did you guys? Because obviously the main focus is to generate members, and what was your experience? I guess whether it's the challenge or the benefit, or just your general experience of finding people interested in wanting to do this particular thing, to be able to say, I want to be part of 30-minute hit. Like, what was that whole experience like? Because I know a lot of people are like, well, how do you even find people? What do you do? Who do you talk to? What marketing do you do? Like, how was that? What was that process look like?
It's a constant challenge. The franchise does some marketing for us on Facebook, which we pay for. They do Facebook ads for us.
Okay.
So that helps. But anything outside of that is on us. So we do our own grassroots marketing. We will do ads in local real estate flyers. We'll do them in like the new mover flyers. Hey, you just moved in the area. Here's this flyer that shows local business or whatever. So we do an ad in that. We do an ad in the Bella Colina neighborhood over in Mount Verde. There is, and then we've got one that's in a golf course, an ad in one of the local golf courses at Kings Ridge. So we've done that kind of marketing. Then we showed up at Taste of South Lake. So we're
as a sponsor, or
yeah. So we were out there. We had a table set up and everything out there for Taste of South Lake.
Now, do you find that members come primarily through a particular channel or set of channels, or is it just kind of like a little bit of everything? Like
we're getting a little bit of everything.
Okay.
We're still trying to figure out what works best.
Okay.
But I mean, Taste of South Lake seemed to work. We got a lot of people that had seen us. I mean, they'd driven past the building. They'd seen the sign on the building.
Yeah.
And they weren't sure what it was, but then seeing us at Taste of South Lake, they were able to actually talk to both of us out there. In fact, we got Debbie Flynn to actually finally come in and join. Nice. So now we have Debbie Flynn from Mineola City Council as a member.
That's cool.
But yeah, getting people to actually come out and talk to us and see who we are and realize that we're actually people in the local community who are here to be a part of the community.
And that's interesting that you say that, because I think a lot of people don't realize that the vast majority of franchises, while a lot of times they'll look very like, and again, it depends on the type of franchise, but typically the smaller ones are just local entrepreneurs that happen to be using the franchise model. But sometimes it doesn't come across that way, which is by design, right? To say, hey, listen, there's a bigger corporation that's involved to some degree that helps the business owner to develop. But oftentimes, like, you see different businesses that are out there that are branded, and that they have like a national name and they're recognizable, but then you don't realize that, this person who lives in Mineola is the owner of that franchise, and they're the ones who are actually running that business.
Right.
So even though there's sort of a national or even regional name that is attributed to it, the average person oftentimes doesn't realize that that's being run by someone who's like just a local entrepreneur, right? Yeah. Which is really interesting because I hear sometimes you hear a little pushback from people who are like, oh, I don't like big box businesses and stuff like that, not realizing that, unless you're talking about like Walmart and, Publix and stuff like that, like most of these franchises, most of these, like, they're essentially like it's a mom and pop with a model.
Right.
It's like, because there's literally like two people running the whole show, and they live locally and they own it, and they're just paying, their franchise fees to kind of help them make this work for them, right?
Yeah.
Which is really really interesting, and I think most people don't realize that that's the case.
Yeah.
They just kind of think, oh, there's a corporate, and the people who work there, they just got hired from some corporate, like, whatever you want to call that, right? From somewhere else high in an ivory tower somewhere.
Yeah.
When most of these, like yours, is very much just you guys are a quintessential mom and pop situation, right? Mom and pop shop. You're working in conjunction with a brand that already exists, which is kind of cool. That's one thing I like about the franchise model. It's like it's like a plug and play, except for like the play part is it's a lot of work.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. But no, that's it. I mean, it's that's 100%. I mean, we've got all the back end support. We don't have to come up with all the merchandise or anything. The merchandise is already there. The logos are already there. All the back end stuff is there for us.
That's cool.
Yes, we have to pay for all that stuff, but we're not out there trying to design it and come up with all the everything to do it ourselves.
Right. Someone's already done that, and they have a designer, and they have someone to make it look all beautiful and pretty, and they know what sells and all that good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's so awesome. It makes it easier for us to be able to say, okay, great, we've got all that support on the back end, but we're running everything. We're making sure everything works for everybody that comes through our doors. And that's one of the things that we tell them when they come through our doors. Hey, we're here for you. And we'll tell them, hey, look, if our trainers aren't able to come in and work for whatever reason, Kim and I are going to come in here and make sure that the doors are open.
That's awesome. Now, how many trainers do you guys have now?
We have 3 trainers.
That's awesome, man. So it's 3 trainers plus you and Kim?
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yep. And our youngest trainer is 16.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And she is phenomenal. She kills it every single day.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, is this the kind of thing where do you guys want to kind of stay at this one location? Are you guys thinking about maybe expanding to have multiple locations? What's kind of like the next step for you guys?
So we've got it tossing around in the back of our heads. I had surgery on my nose a couple months ago over Lake Nona, and while we were over there, we were talking with the nurses. I was getting prepped for surgery, and it's like, yeah, this would be a great location if you guys ever. I mean, there's so many people over here that would love to be able to go out and work out, but we just don't have anything really like. It's a really good location over here.
Right.
And as soon as I started talking to her about that, Kim looked at me like, wait, just wait. And you haven't even made it a year yet. So we're tossing the idea around. We want to wait until we've at least hit a year before we start looking at a second location. But there is talk about potentially going to a second location.
Gotcha. So you feel like the growth is there. You have the potential to be able to kind of expand. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, Central Florida region there's so much potential.
Oh, for sure.
If we went further east, I think there'd be a lot more opportunity as well.
I mean,
we're really hitting a good location here where we are. And we go east, there's more potential as well.
Oh yeah. And just in terms of like the activity that we're seeing, I think that without getting too much into the weeds, one of the things that I think that's happening economically that I think is going to benefit Florida, specifically Central Florida. I don't know how North or South Florida are going to behave, but I think Central Florida has a couple things that are going well that will hold it down for a little bit. We still have a huge retirement community, and it's continuing to grow. And those folks all have, not all, but a lot of them have like legacy pensions and, sort of retirement, like formal retirement, which may not exist for future generations. But those folks, those baby boomers typically have like, these sort of legacy pensions, and they have some additional income, right? That they can, expendable income, I guess you could say. In addition to that generation is, as they age, they need healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So you're seeing a lot more healthcare professionals coming into the area. So that whole industry, that whole healthcare industry is continuing to grow as that retirement population grows. And that the healthcare industry, especially when you're talking about doctors and nurses, they for sure have expendable income, and they have the ability to still spend on things that are going to be beneficial to them, including their personal interest to eat and enjoy themselves, as well as work out and do other things, which is great. further, as you go east, you have the Space Coast, and there's already investment from the military as it relates to with Space Force.
Yep.
Whether you agree with Trump's, politics or not, he's definitely has an interest in wanting to expand on space exploration. So that means that whole Space Coast is likely to continue to grow, which means that's going to bring, obviously engineers. It's going to bring advanced manufacturing. This gets into like AI stuff, robots, and all kinds of stuff. And those guys are going to need also some additional support. So, and those are all high income jobs, right? So those guys are also going to bring a lot here. So I think like Central Florida has a really good positioning. So even if the economy wanes, I feel like Florida is going to be a little bit sheltered from a lot of what might hit other parts of the United States, primarily because of the potential, the jobs that are coming here are higher paying, higher income jobs. And then the retirees also have expendable income. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of opportunity for growth for businesses like yours. And that's whether you go into Orlando or even go into the secondary markets, which right now, it seems like the secondary markets, which like Claremont is considered a secondary market. Those markets, I think, have a lot more opportunity just because people are kind of shifting out of cities and going into secondary towns, because we still have a sort of a small town vibe here, but you still get all the kind of all the amenities that you need. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and the traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I will say the traffic is still not as bad as if you go into Orlando, though. Right.
That is true.
So if you're used to Orlando traffic and you go to Claremont traffic, you're going to be like, oh, this is nothing. Right.
Yeah.
For us, because we're like, oh, man, we for years, it was like you just zip down 50 and you're good. But now that's not the case anymore. It's a lot more traffic now. But that's because we have something to compare it to. And our comparison was a whole lot less traffic.
Right. Yeah.
Where people that are coming from Orlando are looking at this and be like, oh, that's a whole lot less traffic. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's all perspective at the end of the day, right? So I do think that there's a lot of growth that's happening. And I think that's all throughout Central Florida, because we're seeing that growth in the Tampa area, with a lot of retirees going to Tampa as well as just generally Central Florida, Orlando, greater Orlando, and then of course going on to the Space Coast. So I feel like there's a lot of growth happening. So I think that's exciting for me, because that means that it's not going to be necessarily easy, but for those who are eager to grow and are willing to go through a little bit of the work to get there, I feel like that those businesses are going to do well, because there's definitely opportunity there, which is, I think it's exciting for you guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for us, I think if we do decide to expand and open up another location, our benefit will be that we already know all of what not to do and what to do. And we've already got a lot of those systems in place, so that we open up a second location. It's like, oh yeah, easy. We know exactly what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Boom. Everything's already set up.
Yeah,
so it's just a matter of, getting all the equipment back in place. And
right.
We've already got all the software and everything.
You should be able to ramp up pretty fast.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
A lot faster to ramp up than it would be than it was to open this one.
Of course. Well, I mean, it's the first one. So
yeah.
But I mean, it seems like you guys kicked off pretty good, though, all things considered.
Yeah, we did. I mean, and we're 7 months into it. We're coming up on month 8 right now.
That's awesome.
And we're at 100 members.
That's great, man. What was your goal for the year? Did you have one? I'm asking.
So it was interesting I went up to Vancouver in May before we opened. I went up to the corporate summit, and I met, had a conversation with the owner of the Kitchener, Ontario location. Mm-hmm. She was opening the weekend after summit, so the weekend before we opened, and we put in that friendly rivalry. Said, all right, what are we going to set for goals for 3 months out?
Yeah.
We both said, all right, let's go for 150 members. Well, neither one of us said 150 members, but that was our goal for 3 months.
Sure.
We both came really close. We were both, we got to, probably 90 or so. So we were getting right there,
Yeah.
which for just opening,
That's not bad.
solid.
Yeah.
But I think that was our goal, was to get to, by 6 months, to at least be at 100 members.
Mhm.
And at 6 months, we were there. We lost a few.
That's normal.
Which, it's normal for a gym. And we expected to have that attrition, but I mean, we're about where we expected to be.
That's awesome.
I think by the end of the first year, I would love to see us at 200. I think that's my goal.
Yeah.
Is to see us at 200 members. I think that's really.
That doesn't seem like that's unattainable. I mean, you guys are, if you're at 100 now and you're 7 months in, so that's really right on par. You're kind of right on track. And, you got to take into consideration that those first 3 months, like, you started from zero and you have to kind of like build it in.
Yeah.
Right. So now you're like, you don't have that build up anymore. You already have momentum.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
and we went through the last 3 months of the year, which are always typically going to be tough, and through an election year. So it's okay. You're dealing with all of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, we talked to owners all across the company. October, November, December were really slow for everybody, even in Canada.
Yeah.
So we've got nothing but up,
Seems like, momentum going in your favor.
Should be heading in our favor.
That's awesome.
So, 200 by May, I think that's feasible. I think we can hit 200.
Absolutely.
And I think the corporate team is doing well. The company's doing great. They just opened a location in Dubai, of all places.
Oh, wow.
I think is fantastic.
That is awesome.
For a women's only fitness studio to open in Dubai.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That is huge. Yeah. The culture there is very different than what we're used to here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Very cool. All right. Well, I don't want to steal all your time. So, where can people find out about any membership opportunities or to be a part of your gym? Like, where should we be looking?
So we are 30minutehit.com/Miniola.
Okay.
Is the website for the gym.
Okay.
And go on there. You can book a free trial.
What does a free trial look like?
Free trial will take you through the entire experience. It's all trainer led.
Okay.
Trainers are on the floor every single time you're in the gym, which is awesome.
Okay.
You're never in there by yourself. And every workout is always 30 minutes long.
In and out. Gotcha. Now, what is the typical? Are there membership levels, or so where does it start at?
So we have 3 different membership levels. We have a month to month, which is $139 a month. We have a 12-month membership option, which you can do it a couple different ways. You can do it paying month to month on that one, which is $119 a month, or you can do it prepaid, which is 2 payments of $595. And then we have a 6-month option, which is $129 a month.
Gotcha.
And then all those are the basic ways to become a member.
Okay. And then you have, and then that gives you full access to all the classes.
Access.
Okay.
Unlimited access, no class times. The only time you ever have to schedule anything is that free trial. But after that, it's drop in whenever you got 30 minutes. As a member, you have access to every single 30-minute hit around the world at no additional cost. You have access to the online library of 30-minute workouts.
Oh, cool.
You get your gloves and wraps as part of your membership. And right now, through the month of January, everybody that joins, not only do they get their gloves and wraps, they also get a free trainer duffel bag too.
Oh, wow. So, that's nice.
Yeah.
And then just so I understand, you have basically a session that's going on every 30 minutes or every hour, or how does that work?
It's basically, so if you were to drop in right now, you would basically, we have a check-in tablet that's mounted on the wall. You enter your name on that, and every 2 minutes
there's something new starting.
You're going.
Oh, really?
So
it's like a ride.
Yeah, that's it. That's really all it is. It's like it's a cog that's going around. It's 13 stations, and as soon as that first station opens up, you're on it.
Interesting.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. That's neat. So that sounds like fun. I wish I could join. I can't join.
I know. Well, you got to wait till October when we do a guys' night.
That's very cool. Well, okay. So if anybody wanted to reach out to you guys, is there any place in particular that you prefer? Is it just go to the website? That's the best place to do it?
That or Mineola at 30minutehit.com.
Okay. And then
and that's our email.
Mineola at 30minutehit.com. Very cool. And then they could also find you on social media, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Facebook, Instagram.
Yep, Facebook and Instagram. If you look for 30-minute hit, Mineola, Florida is Facebook, and then Mineola.hit. But yeah, if you just search kickboxing in Florida,
you'll find them.
You'll find
you guys.
us.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming out and sharing your journey, which has been exciting to see. I love the fact that you guys are like killing it out there and doing what you got to do. Hey, listen, if you guys haven't already checked them out, 30-minute hit is they're in Mineola. I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you guys coming out. If you like what you're hearing, please like, please share, please comment any thoughts. If you have any questions, we'll get you in touch with Matt over here or his wife, Kim, and we'll get going. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Peace. All right.